I first saw him on a Tuesday. It was late, maybe 11 p.m., and I was washing dishes in my apartment when something in my peripheral vision made me glance up. Across the street, in the building directly facing mine, a man stood in the window watching me. I live on the 4th floor. So did he. His apartment was dark, except for the faint glow of the city outside, and yet I could make out his silhouette perfectly. He didn't move, didn't shift, didn't look away. At first I thought he was just staring absent-mindedly, the way people sometimes do when they're lost in thought. But as I shut off the faucet and wiped my hands, a sick feeling crept into my stomach, because he wasn't just staring. It was like he was studying me. I stepped away from the window and pulled the curtain shut. My heart was beating too fast. Calm down. It's nothing. That's what I told myself. The next night, he was there again. This time, I watched him back. He was tall, with a lean frame, his face hidden in shadow. The way he stood so still, so rigid, made my skin crawl. I closed the curtains quickly, trying to ignore the tight knot in my stomach. It became a pattern. Every night, he was there. Every night, he watched. I stopped opening my curtains after that. It wasn't worth the unease that coiled in my chest like a snake every time I locked eyes with that faceless shadow. But then, things got worse. It started with small noises outside my door, faint shuffling, a light scrape like fingernails against wood. One night, I thought I heard my doorknob jiggle. I sat up in bed, my heart slamming against my ribs. My breath hitched as I listened, waiting, silenced. I forced myself to believe it was my imagination, a draft, a creaky building, not him. Then I started receiving messages. They weren't on my phone, not through email or social media. I found them inside my apartment. The first was a single Polaroid left under my kitchen counter. A photo of me, taken the night before, through my window. My stomach twisted so violently I nearly threw up. I rushed to check the locks, but they were all still bolted. There was no sign of forced entry, no way in, and yet someone had been inside. I told myself to call the police. I even picked up my phone to dial, but then I hesitated. What would I say? That I thought some man in the building across from me was breaking in without a trace. They'd think I was crazy. The second message came 2 nights later. I found it taped to my bathroom mirror. A single note scrawled in shaky handwriting. You look so peaceful when you sleep. That was the moment the fear became paralyzing. I barely slept that night, listening for every sound, heart racing with every creak of the floorboards. The next day, the third message came. This one wasn't a note. It was a photo of my front door, taken from inside my apartment. I ran. I didn't pack. I didn't think. I just grabbed my keys and sprinted to my car. I checked into a hotel on the other side of town, double-bolted the door, and spent the night staring at the peephole, terrified that I'd see an eye staring back. The next morning, I called the police. They searched my apartment. Nothing was missing. No signs of forced entry. They went to the building across the street to question the man in the window. But here's the thing. No one lived there. The apartment had been vacant for over a year. There was no furniture, no belongings, no man. I gave them the messages, but they couldn't find any fingerprints besides my own. I don't open my curtains anymore. I don't sleep near windows, and sometimes, even now, I still feel his eyes on me. Still hear the whisper of fingernails against my door. Still wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, because somewhere, I know he's still watching. It started with the notes. At first, they were almost harmless. I love your smile. You look so handsome today. They were left on my car, my desk at work, even slipped under my apartment door. No name, no number, just words in delicate, slanted handwriting. I assumed it was a secret admirer, some quiet coworker too shy to say anything outright. I just kept on going about my business as usual. I thought that whoever this was would eventually reveal themselves, right? I did keep an eye open, of course. I hope it's that Miranda from the second floor, I said to myself. Oh, well, I'll just wait and see. But then the messages changed. I don't like when you talk to other women. You belong to me. I see you. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I told myself it was just some weird prank. I ignored it, but the feeling that I was being watched never left. Then, one night, I got home late and saw something that made my stomach drop. A photo taped to my front door. A picture of me, sleeping in my bed. I stumbled back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Someone had been inside. I called the cops. They checked my apartment, found no signs of forced entry. They said they'd keep an eye on things, but without solid evidence, there wasn't much they could do. I changed my locks, installed security cameras, did everything right. None of it mattered. A week later, I woke up to a loud pop. I rushed to my window just in time to see someone running away, a dark silhouette disappearing into the night. My car tires were slashed, all four of them. The police were called, reports were filed, and still nothing. She was smart. She never left fingerprints, never got caught on camera, but she wanted me to know she was always there. The texts came next. I don't know how she got my number, but one night, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It said, "You look so tired today. I can take care of you." I blocked it. The next day, a new number. It said, "Don't ignore me. You don't want to make me angry now, do you?" Then the emails came, then the calls, then the whispers in the middle of the night, so soft I thought I was imagining them. "I love you. Don't fight this. We're meant to be together." I barely slept anymore. I stopped dating, stopped going out unless I had to. She had me trapped in my own life. Then came the night that nearly ended it all. I was exhausted, running on maybe 2 hours of sleep, when I heard it, a soft creak in the darkness. I froze in bed, listening. The air felt wrong. Then, in the dim glow of the streetlights leaking through my window, I saw her, a woman, standing in my room, watching me. The knife in her hand caught the light. I lunged out of bed just as she rushed me. Pain flared across my arm as the blade slashed me. Warm blood spilled down my skin, but adrenaline kept me moving. I fought back. We crashed to the floor, her weight pressing down on me, the knife dangerously close to my throat. She was laughing hysterically and crying at the same time. "Why won't you love me?" I grabbed her wrist, forcing it away from my neck, muscles burning as she thrashed. I used all my strength and flipped her off of me. Her head slammed against the floor. The knife clattered away. For the first time, I saw her clearly, wide, feverish eyes, her lips twisted into something that might have been a smile. I'm not gonna lie, she was kind of bad for real. If she wasn't crazy, I'd be cranking that thingamabob in a heartbeat. Anyways, I pinned her down until the cops arrived. She screamed, cried, told him it was all a mistake, that she was my girlfriend, that I loved her. But the evidence spoke for itself. The messages, the photos, the break-ins, the knife. She was arrested for attempted murder and stalking. She's been in prison for a while now, but some nights I fear she's just counting down the days until she can finish the job. It started 2 years ago. The first time I noticed him was at the grocery store. I was picking out apples when I felt that prickle on the back of my neck, the one that tells you someone is watching. When I turned, he was there, just standing in the next aisle looking at me. But it was obvious he was trying to make it look like he wasn't. I almost didn't recognize him. It had been years since high school. He had been quiet back then. One of those kids who sat in the back of the class, never speaking unless spoken to. I barely remembered his name. Ethan. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, a weird, uncomfortable one, but nothing more, until I saw him again, and again, and again. He was always there, looking, at the coffee shop, outside my work, sitting 2 rows behind me at the movie theater, always alone, always watching. I started noticing the small things next. My name scratched into the frost on my car window one morning. Roses left on my apartment doorstep, never with a note. The distinct feeling that my things had been moved when I came home, though nothing was missing. I went to the police. They told me what they always do. We can't do anything unless he threatens you or breaks the law. I told them he was following me. I told him I was scared. But there were no witnesses, no hard evidence, just my word against his silence. Ethan never tried to talk to me. Not until the night I found the first letter. It was on my pillow when I came home. The door was still locked, the windows still latched, and yet he had been inside. The letter was written in careful, obsessive script. I've loved you since high school. You never noticed me, but I noticed you. I remember everything, how you used to laugh, the way you chewed on your pen in class, the outfits you wore back then. You were perfect, but you never loved me, didn't you? Even though I was the silent and mysterious alpha male. I can protect you, my love, protect you from all the bad people. I love you so, so much, and soon I'll come see you again. My stomach twisted as I read it. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the paper. I called the police again, but when they arrived, the letter was gone. The officer looked at me like I was making it up. Are you sure you didn't misplace it? I wanted to scream. Ethan was playing a game, and I was the only one who knew. The letters kept coming. I always left somewhere impossible. In my locked car, inside my bathroom mirror cabinet, tucked under my pillow while I slept. Then the messages changed. Why do you keep running from me? We're meant to be together. You don't need anyone else. I'll make sure of it. I stopped sleeping. I stopped going out at night. I installed 3 extra locks on my door. None of it mattered. One night, I was brushing my teeth when I saw something in the mirror that made my blood turn to ice. A shape behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly slipped, but there was nothing there. Just my empty, silent bedroom and my closet door, slightly open. I never leave it open. Heart hammering, I crept forward. The darkness inside was thick, suffocating. I reached out with a trembling hand, and then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You look so beautiful right now. The closet door slammed shut. I screamed. I ran out of the apartment barefoot into the freezing night, gasping for air. I stayed with a friend after that. I filed another police report. This time, they took me seriously. They put a tracker on my phone, staked out my apartment. They promised me they'd find him. But Ethan was smart. He disappeared. No more texts, no more letters, no more signs of him. After months of silence, I let myself believe it was over. Until last night. I was staying late at work, one of the last ones in the office. The building was quiet, empty. I went to the restroom, splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up, my reflection stared back, exhausted, wary. And then I saw it. The words, scrawled across the mirror in red ink. I'm done waiting. Then, before I could even take a breath, the door swung open. I inherited the house when I was 24. My parents had lived here for decades before they died, and even though I had the option to sell, I couldn't bring myself to do it. The house was old, creaky, and too big for just me, but it was home. At least, I wanted it to be. From the very first night, I knew something was off. It started small, items moving when I knew I hadn't touched them. A mug I left on the coffee table would be in the sink the next morning. My keys, always on the hook by the door, would end up on the kitchen counter. I blamed myself. Maybe I was absent-minded. Maybe grief was playing tricks on me. But then came the noises, soft scuffling in the walls, a faint thump from the attic. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps, not in the hallway, but inside the walls. I told myself it was mice, maybe raccoons. Houses settle, pipes groan. It was all normal. But the years passed, and things only got worse. One winter, I woke up to find all the kitchen cabinets open, every single one. Another time, my bedroom door slammed shut on its own so hard that a picture fell off the wall. One night, I heard the floorboards creak outside my bedroom door. I held my breath, waiting, straining my ears. Silence. Then, a quiet shuffle. I nearly called out, thinking maybe a stray animal had somehow gotten inside. But something told me not to make a sound. I sat in bed, frozen, my heart hammering. After a long moment, the sound faded. I started locking my bedroom door at night. Then, last week, I found something that made my stomach drop. I was cleaning out the storage room, a space I rarely use, when I noticed something odd. The floor vent near the wall was loose. The screws were missing. Curious, I pulled it open. Inside was a small pile of wrappers, crumpled food packaging, empty water bottles, a nest of blankets, and worse, a Polaroid of me, sleeping. There were more Polaroids, but I won't disclose what the content of those were. Let's just say it was my worst nightmare come true. My hands trembled as I stared at the pictures. They weren't old. They were yellowed with age. It was recent. I called the police immediately. They searched the house, but found nothing. Said it must have been an old hiding spot from years ago, maybe even from before my parents owned the house. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been living there, hiding, watching. That brings me to tonight. I went to bed early, exhausted from weeks of barely sleeping. I triple-checked the locks, left the kitchen light on. My heart still wouldn't settle. Then, just as I was drifting off, I heard it, a cough, a deep, raspy cough. I bolted upright, my pulse hammering. It wasn't outside. It wasn't from the street. It was inside my room. The air went still. I turned my head, slow, terrified, toward my closet. The door was open. I always keep it closed. And then from the darkness inside, a footstep. I lunged for the lamp, hand shaking as I flicked it on. Light flooded the room, and there, standing in my closet, his body half hidden behind my clothes, was a man. Dirty, thin, eyes wide and unblinking. I opened my mouth to scream, but he moved fast. I barely had time to react before he lunged at me. I scrambled out of bed, my foot catching on the sheets. He grabbed my wrist before I could run, his grip bony and too strong. "Finally!" he screamed. His breath was hot and sour against my face. I struggled, kicking, clawing at his arm. I twisted hard, breaking free, and sprinted for the door. He chased me. I felt his fingers graze my hair as I threw open the bedroom door and bolted down the hall. My heart slammed against my ribs as I ran for the front door, nearly tripping over the rug. I didn't dare look back. I fumbled with the lock, my hand slick with sweat. Just as I got the door open, something yanked me back. Pain exploded across my scalp as he grabbed my hair, dragging me back inside. I swung my elbow wildly, connecting with his ribs. He grunted and loosened his grip. That was my chance. I shoved him with everything I had, sending him stumbling backward. I ran out the door, down the driveway, screaming for help. The neighbors heard. The police came. They found him hiding in the crawl space. He had been there for years, watching me, living inside my walls, surviving off whatever food I left behind, slipping out at night while I slept, sneaking through the rooms like a ghost. They took him away in handcuffs. I don't live there anymore. I don't sleep well anymore either, because sometimes, in the middle of the night, I still hear that cough, and I don't know if it's just in my head or if someone, somewhere, is still watching.